At Hope International, we look at the world around us and see beauty and potential. But we also see brokenness, broken communities, broken families, and broken dreams. We believe that God wants to restore this brokenness. Hope International's mission is to invest in the dreams of families in the world's underserved communities as we proclaim and live the gospel. We do this in 4 ways. We provide people with biblically based training, equipping them to mobilize the skills God has given them. We offer them a safe place to save money for the future. We help unlock their potential through small loans. And we disciple, pointing people toward Christ while connecting them to local churches. So what does this approach look like? Meet Marie. Marie lives in a large city in the Republic of Congo. With no formal education and few jobs available, she and her husband struggle to provide for their children. God has given Marie skills, dreams, and a great work ethic. She's a talented seamstress, but with her family's limited income, it would take her 20 years to save up $100 for a sewing machine. But what if Marie could buy a sewing machine today? Through Hope, she joins a group of entrepreneurs from her community and receives a small loan. She uses the money to make her sewing business a reality, meaning more regular income for her family. Over 6 months, her group meets every other week. During these meetings, they worship, study the Bible, complete biblically based training, save money, and make repayments together. Marie is hearing about Christ's love and learning to walk with Him. Now she is more able to put her skills to work, and her family is on the path to thriving. Daniel also has big dreams for his family. Daniel is a farmer in rural Malawi. His family lives mostly on the crops he grows, and they sell whatever's left over. Even though he works hard, Daniel never seems to earn much beyond his family's daily needs. But when neighbors from a local church invite him to a savings group, he joins. Each group member saves small amounts, sometimes as little as 10 cents a week. As their collective savings grow, they can use these funds for school fees, emergencies, or to invest in businesses. With his savings, Daniel buys and raises goats, selling their kids at market, and eventually he saves enough for a cow. When the group meets together, they support one another, pray, study scripture, and learn how God has equipped them to provide for others in their churches and communities. Now, Daniel has more hope for the future. Around the world, we're seeing men and women use the gifts God has placed in their hands, their time, dreams, and talents, to break the cycle of poverty. We're seeing them reconciled to their Creator and their dignity restored. We're seeing relationships thrive within families, neighborhoods, and communities. That's how hope helps families flourish.
My name is Peter Greer, and on behalf of the Global Hope International team, we are so thankful that you are here, that you chose to join us for the global virtual event. In 2020 is when we began this opportunity to connect virtually with our supporters from around the country and around the world. And even though now we are able to gather in person at events, we also wanted to have this as an opportunity to connect with many more that weren't able to be with us at one of our in-person events. And tonight, you're going to hear from our colleagues in Haiti, in Ukraine, and Rwanda. And I am so glad that you have chosen to be with us. This year is special because it is the 25th anniversary of Hope International, and it's an opportunity to look back 25 years ago and to realize that there were some seeds that were planted 25 years ago without any idea about what would grow. And today, as we look back over the 25 years of Hope International, we celebrate that we have been able to serve 2.5 million families. We've been able to invest $1.4 billion in the dreams of entrepreneurs around the world. But even more than that, what I celebrate is there has been a consistent posture of this organization and my colleagues that I am so proud of, that whenever there is a challenge in the world, we refuse to just sit back, we refuse to just watch it unfold, and instead say, what would it look like for us to show up? And for 25 years, we've had the privilege of showing up, and we've had the privilege of showing up with you, our friends, our supporters that have walked with us. And so we think back tonight about 25 years of showing up and about the small seeds that have been planted that today have grown into something beyond what any of us could have imagined. I thought about the impact of seeds being planted when I was in Rwanda just a few months ago. And while I was there, I had the opportunity alongside a group of colleagues to plant an avocado tree. And this was really significant because when I lived in Rwanda, I had an avocado tree on my property, and I love avocados. In season, it was possible to literally go out my front door to pick an avocado and to enjoy it. And from that point to today, I love a good avocado. But in that moment, as I was picking the avocados, what never occurred to me is who planted that tree? Who's the individual that years before planted that tree? And while I was in Rwanda just a few months ago, I participated in a planting of avocado trees, something that I had never done before. But I learned something that day, and that was that an avocado tree takes approximately 5 years before you ever enjoy an avocado. And so I made a promise to that group. I said, I'm gonna come back to this community in 5 years, and we are gonna enjoy an avocado together. There's a proverb that says this. It says, a society grows great when people plant trees whose fruit they will never eat. I think about that as a way of really representing the mission of Hope International, that many years ago, there were a group of individuals without any benefit to themselves, but said, we're gonna plant some trees. We're gonna step out, we're gonna respond, we're gonna find a way to figure out what it looks like to share and show the love of Jesus Christ. And they planted some seeds 25 years ago. What I find really interesting too about the story of Hope International is that we were founded by Jeff Rutt, and his background before becoming a successful home builder was he was in agriculture. He was a farmer. He understands the benefit of planting. He understands the benefit of patience. And he had the courage to plant some seeds 25 years ago without any benefit to himself, but really this desire to say, what does it look like for us to share with others? You know, I think that was really just because seeds had been planted in his life a long time earlier than that. Seeds that said, I want to read scripture and then I want to obey it. The founding story of Hope International was him reading Matthew 25 and saying, these are not just suggestions, but this is an invitation for us to serve the least of these as if we were serving Christ himself. So 25 years ago, Jeff planted some seeds in the founding of Hope International. And the result that we're celebrating today is a tree and fruit in 20 plus countries around the world. And we are so grateful that you have joined with us to celebrate what God has made grow over these past 25 years. We're going to start our event with an introduction of who Hope is and what we do, knowing that some of you have been around Hope for the last 20 plus years, but some of you, this is the first time that you're hearing about Hope, and we wanted to begin with an explanation of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And I'm so glad that we're going to hear from Rico. Rico is our country director for Hope Haiti, and I have so much respect for Rico. He has a career in international development, most recently with our friends at Compassion International, and now he is the country director for Hope Haiti. And if you have followed the news, you have seen that there have been challenge after challenge for the nation of Haiti. After the assassination of Moise Juvenel, the president, the country has really faced incredible challenges politically, economically. There is violence that is on the rise as gangs take over more and more of the country. But we've always believed that a crisis is an opportunity to show up, and Rico has been showing up. So Rico, we welcome you to introduce Hope International and our core mission.
Hello, I'm Rico Saint-Paulin, and I am Hope Haiti's country director. By God's grace, we at Hope International are also celebrating 25 years of God's faithfulness to us and to families around the world. For over 2 decades now, the Lord has allowed us to invest in the dreams of families in underserved communities as we proclaim and live the gospel. This year, we've celebrated 25 years of service, and yet at times, we've also mourned. Beyond the daily grind of poverty, the people we serve experienced significant hardships, rising fuel costs, market disruptions, violence, and natural disasters. In Ukraine, for instance, where Hope was founded, a devastating war has ended lives this year and set back decades of economic progress. Some of you have supported our mission for many years. Thank you. And some of you here are new to Hope's work. We want you to walk away from this online gathering with a solid understanding of why Hope exists and what we do. One reason we believe Hope's work is so vital is because families living in material poverty have to deal with unimaginable questions such as, which of my children should I send to school since I cannot afford school fees for them all? Should I buy groceries for the week or inventory for my store? Should I buy medicine for my sick husband or wife or pay the rent we owe to our landlord? As the director of Hope Haiti and a Haitian citizen, I often witness how parents had to wrestle with unimaginable questions. Jesula is a mother of 4 who joined our savings group ministry in 2020 in Port-à-Pima, a town of about 25,000 people in southern Haiti. She was facing severe financial and social-emotional difficulties and felt hopeless as a responsible mother. But by God's grace, she has overcome the daily challenges. In her own words, she describes her experience. I thought I wasn't going to be accepted into the program because I wasn't a member of the church, but I was not discriminated against. This experience has allowed me to be a totally different person now. People love me and support me, and this experience has not only impacted my life economically, but I have also grown spiritually and emotionally. Amen. If you spend time in an underserved community, you've likely met mothers like Jesula and fathers who dream of better futures for their children. But the exhausting struggle for day-to-day survival can threaten to stifle their hope for the future. Families struggling in poverty might live an entire generation inside this tension, asking which of their basic needs they can meet, which dreams will have to wait or be abandoned altogether. We hear about a life-changing crisis like the war in Ukraine, and we know it's upending lives as we speak. But challenges like the COVID-19 lockdowns, political unrest, illnesses like malaria or typhoid, and natural disasters like floods or drought are also urgent crises. They don't always make the headlines, but they happen every day. Without a secure place to stay, families are vulnerable to unexpected emergencies. Without access to capital, they struggle to build profitable businesses to provide for their families. But it doesn't have to be this way. At Hope, our conviction is that effective poverty alleviation requires a holistic model, one that integrates 3 elements: Christ, community, and capital, 3 C's. To offer capital, Hope allows men and women to access a lump sum of cash borrowed, or saved up for a productive purpose. And while access to capital is crucial, at Hope we believe first and foremost that lasting transformation comes through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. So we actively share the good news of the gospel through discipleship, integrating the fullness of the gospel into all we do. We seek to live out the Great Commission as well as the greatest commandment. And when it comes to community, we believe no one should have to go it alone when fighting to improve life for their families. What we mean by community becomes more clear as we tell about our two specific models. Just like each of us here uses different financial tools depending on our needs, Hope serves families through two primary approaches: microfinance and savings groups. Hope's microfinance institutions, or MFIs for short, are banks in the countries where we operate. The entrepreneurs we serve are incredibly creative and hardworking, and their business provide both sustainable income for their families and meet relevant needs in communities. Here's how it works.
Almost a decade ago, author Robert Lupton criticized some forms of charity. He called them toxic. While he recognized the need for immediate aid following a crisis, he warned against chronic ongoing relief. But he believed there was a better solution. And at Hope International, so do we. And that's where our story begins. Meet Jeff, a donor who gives each year generously to help alleviate poverty around the world. Jeff gives $100 to Jean, who appreciates the gift and purchases food for his family. Jeff also donates to Hope International, who lends $100 to Marguerite, who provides for her family by selling fruit juice. Marguerite uses the investment to purchase tables and chairs as she opens a small cafe. The cafe does well. She repays her loan with interest, and her ongoing income allows her to send her daughters to school. A year goes by, and it's time for Jeff's annual donations to fight poverty. Jeff sends another $100 to Jean, again providing the money he needs to feed his family. Jean had been anticipating this next gift all year. Since Marguerite repaid her last loan, Hope International now has $200. Hope loans $100 to Maria, who opens a salon in her house, and Alina, who purchases seeds to diversify the crops she grows and sells. Both women work hard and repay their loans with interest. Jeff's cycle of well-meaning charity continues for a third and fourth year, as Jean moves from anticipation to expectation to entitlement. All the while, Hope International expands the impact of Jeff's growing gift even further. Christine buys more chicks for her egg business, Andre purchases tools for his construction business, and Josephine buys used clothes in bulk to resell. All three repay their loans with interest. Sadly, by the fifth year, despite his daily efforts, Jean is entirely dependent on Jeff to provide for his family. Meanwhile, Hope International invests $500 more in the dreams of 5 more families in underserved communities, also providing discipleship, biblically based training, and savings services. Jeff's donations have now impacted 15 families and will continue to create opportunities for others. This story is our story. Before founding Hope International in 1997, Jeff Rutt was unintentionally causing dependency through his donations to Ukrainian families in need. Until his Ukrainian friends helped him understand the effects of his cycle of toxic charity, and that's when Hope International was born. Today, Hope has invested more than $1.4 billion in our mission of empowering men and women to be active participants rather than passive recipients in providing for themselves, their families, and their communities. It's not the amount of money you give that makes the difference. It's how we come alongside families living in poverty to empower them with the hope of Christ's life-changing love and the dignity of work.
Our other primary approach is savings groups. Savings groups are groups of 15 to 25 people, usually all connected to one local church body or sometimes a mix of church members and neighbors, each savings group is autonomous and self-governing. They choose a name for themselves, elect their own group leaders, and decide on how to use their savings. Here's how it works.
All around us, we see the negative effects of our broken relationships with God, self, others, and the rest of creation. This is poverty. What would it be like for churches to join God in restoring broken relationships, fighting poverty in all these areas? In communities struggling with the effects of poverty, savings groups offer people the chance to come out of isolation, save for their family's needs, invest in businesses, and find hope in Christ. At Hope International, we come alongside church partners to equip them to launch their own savings group ministries. How do these partnerships work? First, Hope partners with a broader network of churches or ministries. Hope equips the partner to train volunteers from their churches, who in turn form, train, and support savings groups based out of local churches. Each savings group meeting, members follow the 5 W's format. First, there is a welcome. Then members worship and study the Word of God together. Next, they get to work saving money and making loans to each other. Finally, they wrap up the meeting. As these groups meet, members form relationships of trust and mutual support. Maria, a single mother who has felt unloved and unwanted, begins to see her God-given worth and has a safe place to save for her children's school fees and for emergencies. Moise, once isolated from his community, experiences the love of God through relationships and accesses a loan to start a chicken business. Fatima, a shop owner, learns about loving her neighbor and in turn shares her experience with her fellow group members to strengthen their businesses. The savings group celebrates a year of saving and meeting together by giving a gift to their church community and purchasing land to farm together. As they meet regularly and pray for each other, members grow closer to Christ and embrace their God-given dignity. They start and expand businesses and provide for their families and communities. All around the world, local churches are using savings group ministries to address poverty and restore broken relationships in their communities. This is the good news of the gospel at work around the world through the church.
This map shows the Hope Global Network around the world. Our mission is to invest in the dreams of families in underserved communities. So we work with budding entrepreneurs that commercial banks overlook in countries like Haiti, Peru, Zimbabwe, and the Philippines. Within those contexts, we have a renewed energy to reach frontier communities, those who would otherwise be marginalized financially, socially, or spiritually. In various locations around Hope's global network, we now also invest in refugees, internally displaced people, unreached people groups, the hearing impaired, and individuals returning from incarceration. During this global virtual event, we're excited to share stories of women and men we serve who are creating change for their families and communities despite ongoing crises and the daily challenges of poverty. We are here to celebrate this creativity and giftedness of those we serve, the power of Christ, community, and capital, and the important role that you play in investing in the dreams of families around the world. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rico. Thank you for sharing, and even more, thank you for the way that you are leading the team in Hope Haiti. And as you heard, we are passionate about Christ, community, and capital as ways, an integrated approach to addressing extreme poverty in our world. We're constantly on the lookout for how can we effectively address physical and spiritual poverty using the tools of savings groups and microfinance institutions around the world. And I'm so grateful, Rico, for the way that you are employing those tools in Haiti. I'm also thankful that tonight we have the opportunity, as we said, to look back over 25 years and remember our founding story in Ukraine. Really those same tools of Christ, community, and capital being used to rebuild after the fall of the Soviet Union. and really the founding story of Hope International in a church-to-church partnership where a church requested more than just a handout, but really the opportunity to use their God-given gifts and abilities to rebuild their families and communities. And while we saw so much progress in Ukraine over the past 25 years, it has been truly heartbreaking for us to watch the invasion in Ukraine on February 24th. I remember where I was. I remember hearing about the way in which the staff needed to flee the violence. This was not something that we were just learning about on the news, but this is something that we were looking at through the lens of relationship and through the lens of friendship. And as we heard about the devastation, we also saw this as one more opportunity for us as an organization to say, what's in our hands and how can we show up? How can we help respond? And at the center of our response has been Andrei Barkov, who is serving as the managing director for Hope Ukraine, but he has been working with Hope International since 1999. He is someone who knows what it looks like to show up and to help rebuild. And also Dan Williams. Dan leads the integrated strategy team, our team that asks questions about how can we have an integrated approach to the work that we do, and he has been so helpful in navigating our response. So we wanted to share from Dan, from Andre, a look at what it looks like for Hope International to say, how do we show up? How do we respond to the crisis in Ukraine?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dan Williams, and I'm with my colleague, Andrei Barkov, and we serve together on Hope International's integrated strategy team. And over the past 9 months, we have been helping to coordinate Hope's response in Ukraine. And so we're privileged tonight to share a little bit of what we've seen God do over that time. And Andre, you and your family were there in Kyiv when the war began, right?
Yep, on Thursday, February 24th, I was still serving as the managing director of Hope Ukraine, then Russia began their invasion. That day, everything changed for peaceful Ukrainians. Not just our family, but millions of families woke up with sounds of explosions and air raid sirens. Since February, 6 to 7 million left the country. 2 million became internally displaced persons. At least 7,000 civilians and over 400 children killed. Unemployment rate jumped 30%. Inflation skyrocketed.
And this posed an interesting challenge for us as Hope, because this was a crisis and relief was necessary, but Hope is not a relief organization. Our focus, our experience is in long-term sustainable development, investing in dreams. That's a long-term investment. And so it was a little bit of a challenge for us to consider how we might best respond. But I think we realized that investing in dreams, that's a long-term commitment. And so when crisis strikes a community that we have been called to serve, we don't just get to wave our hands and say, that's not our job. For a time-bound period, when necessary, we need to roll up our sleeves like the rest of the community and join our partners in the relief efforts that they are supporting. And so in the early days of the crisis, we recognized that we had a lot of things to steward. We had 25 years of experience and relationship. We had been connected with dozens of churches that were already responding. And so we started asking the question, how could we come alongside them? So over the past 9 months, we've been privileged to come alongside 42 different churches and ministries that have been supporting families as they've fled and sought refuge from this crisis. And we've gone deeper with 6 of those partners, helping them to scale their response. And then we've also been able to connect and network these organizations with 56 different ministry partners throughout the country. And in so doing, we've been privileged to see God do just incredible things. And so in July, you and I went with a team to Western Ukraine to visit with these partners and heard some really encouraging testimonies of what God had done through that response.
That's right. There are 3 houses of mercy supported by Hope's partner, New Generation Church in Zaporizhia. In one of those houses, there were senior ladies, internally displaced persons from areas occupied by Russians. They were left homeless in their cities. Their houses were bombed down. They had nowhere to go. Unfortunately, this was the reality of these elderly women. None of them expected to live like that. But thanks God, New Generation Church sent teams to frontline to find these women and help them evacuate. Hope was privileged to partner with New Generation Church to buy additional vehicles. They are no longer destitute, abandoned elderly people. Now they are a part of the church, one family, sisters in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I remember being so encouraged by that story and the courage of our partners that are going out to the front line to help these women, these elderly people to be able to seek refuge when they had been forgotten and left to face these circumstances on their own. And so I was encouraged during that trip. And we also recognized during that time that the environment had shifted a bit and that the nation was and still is in a war. And so there are communities that still are facing crisis where relief is the right response. But other regions had stabilized and were in need of a different kind of support. And so I remember gathering as the leadership team and considering how we might respond. And I think we landed on this term resilience then as the right description for what our response should be, is supporting families to be resilient in the midst of this crisis as they wait for its end. And as we considered how hope might be a part of that response, we identified 4 key groups of people that we wanted to be focused on serving: entrepreneurs, farmers, pastors and our church partners, and then internally displaced families that had become more stabilized in the West. And so in this resilience phase, we want to continue to be present. We want to explore new ideas for how we can best serve them. We want to adapt our existing models to meet their evolving needs. So during this resilience phase, we want to be present and serving. And I've already been so inspired by some of the examples we've seen of our clients demonstrating that kind of resilience. And one of those stories in particular that stood out to me was the story of Vasil.
That's right. Vasil has been Hope's client since 2016, and he recently became a local church pastor and supports an extremely fruitful children's ministry. His business is sale of electrical products. The electrical business was actually started by his father, but it was very small. Recently, Vasily also started cable production, and his business has grown significantly thanks to Hope's support. And he also started a new store. He also has a lot of opportunities to influence his staff. He leads prayer and worship sessions for them every Monday.
Wow. And I think we see from that story the impact that one resilient entrepreneur, one resilient business can have on so many different families. And it's exactly those sorts of families that we want to support through this ongoing crisis. And, as we've talked about, Hope's 25 years of history and relationship enabled us to be a part of the immediate relief, and the trust that we've built with entrepreneurs in these relationships is giving us a privileged space to support this resilience phase. But we're looking forward to the time when this war is over and we can join Ukraine in rebuilding this nation. And during that time, we know that Ukraine is going to need everybody to do their part. Farmers are going to need to reclaim lost land and to restore assets that have been lost or damaged. Entrepreneurs, they're going to need to reopen their businesses with capital that they have either lost or spent or has been confiscated during the war. Churches, they're going to need encouragement and community as they shepherd their congregations through healing and restoration. And so during that time, we also want to be playing a critical role, helping the nation to enter into this rebuilding phase. And I think we've drawn a lot of hope as we've even considered some of our clients that have exemplified what it might look like when that time comes.
Yeah, Igor is from the small town right next to Polish border. He's been doing farming for 40 years. He started working in a kolkhoz, collective farm in other words, in the Soviet Union, and worked his way up to the executive director of a private farm after he retired in 2015. He first rented 70 hectares of land, and now he has over 200. He's reinvesting all his profits back into his land. He started with soybeans, and it wasn't successful. He also lost his money on corn, and we asked him, why do you continue to do it if it's so hard? He said, well, anyway, hope dies last. This year prices are low, but he loves farming and farming loves him back. He's just facing hard times. But he believes everything will be fine. Hope dies last. He's really grateful for Hope Ukraine loan, and he believes farming is crucially important for people of Ukraine. And not only in Ukraine, there is a threat of hunger throughout the world this year. We asked if there is something else Hope Ukraine could do for you. How could we serve you better? And his answer was very encouraging. I'll be sincere with you. If the war is over, I won't need any help. I'll be helping others myself.
Wow. Wow. Thanks, Andre, for sharing this story. Hope dies last. And when the war is over, I'll be helping others. And so thanks for sharing all of these stories of what we've been able to see God do. And we want to give a special thank you to those of you that have supported Hope in its response in Ukraine. We have been privileged to come alongside the church as they have responded in compassion during this relief stage. And we are encouraged and inspired as we continue to support entrepreneurs, farmers, and our partners in this resilient stage. And we are praying and looking forward with anticipation for when this war ends and we can join farmers, entrepreneurs, our partners like Igor in rebuilding Ukraine together. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you, Andre. And one of the other pieces that we have seen over the last few months is not just the way that our colleagues have responded, but we also have seen the way that our friends and partners have responded as well. And one of the most humbling things that I've ever experienced in my leadership was watching the way that other organizations, after the invasion of Ukraine, the way other organizations pointed their supporters to Hope International. And it's possible that some of you joining heard about Hope International from one of these other organizations. And I just so appreciate Scott Todd at One Child and Compassion and the faith-driven entrepreneur communities and the way that so many others pointed individuals to Hope International. We believe that we are in this together, and we are so grateful that we do not feel like we are responding in Ukraine alone. So thanks again to those organizations, to our friends, to our partners that have helped us figure out what it looks like for us to respond in Ukraine. One of the other parts of Hope that I absolutely love is that we are a global network. And we're an organization that works in countries around the world. And one of the benefits of that is that when there is a crisis, we find that other countries understand in a way that many of us don't what it looks like to go through a crisis. And I heard recently from one of our team members that after the invasion in Ukraine, there was a group in Rwanda that heard the news that we all heard, and their posture immediately was to gather the team together and to pray for Ukraine. And those colleagues in Rwanda, they understand what it's like to live through a war. They understand what it's like to live in a crisis because they had lived through the Rwandan genocide of 1994. And yet they, in that moment, hearing about colleagues and friends that were having a crisis, they knew what to do and they gathered and they prayed. And from what I heard, it was one of the most meaningful prayer gatherings imaginable. They knew what it was like and they wanted to pray for our friends. And I am so grateful for Deanne Uwamahoro, who leads the Hope Rwanda team, and the way that she leads in Rwanda, but also leads with a heart for the global mission of Hope International. And Deanne understands what it looks like to show up, to continue loving and serving, and she has a heart for the marginalized. She's going to have a conversation with Kelsey Fox, who leads our grants team. And in this conversation, they're going to share about this heart to serve the marginalized, because we know that a crisis in Ukraine makes the headlines, But there is a daily crisis, oftentimes by those in poverty or those that are facing physical or mental challenges. And those are also the crises that we as Hope International say we want to show up in those moments too. So here's a conversation between Deanne and Kelsey.
Deanne, thanks for sharing with us this evening. We've heard how savings groups gather 15 to 20 individuals together who study scripture, save money together, and make loans. Hope Rwanda has served over 500,000 members over the years. Could you share with us the impact that the savings group ministry is having on individuals and their families in Rwanda?
Yes, the impact is visible and tangible in different areas. We see spiritual impact. We have seen new church members forming through saving groups because the saving groups are inclusive. They invite everyone in their communities to join, and some people join and they don't know about the Lord. And as they share, they save, they get loans, they pay back, they share the word. Oh, they come to like it, and eventually some give their life to Jesus and they become Christian, and groups celebrate that. And on top of that, we see material impact. We see some people take small loans and they improve their livelihood. Some are able to purchase like a goat or a cow, or maybe work on their house through those small loans, or they pay school fees for their kids, or they even pay their health insurance, because here in Rwanda, it is important. Every community member needs to have a health insurance. So for group members, they don't struggle to get that one.
Wow, that's incredible. One of the stories of resilience that we've heard from Hope Rwanda this year is a savings group made up of individuals from the community who are deaf and or non-speaking. You know, in Rwanda, these individuals may be on the far margins of society. They may be largely unchurched. And through this savings group, they're finding belonging. So I wonder, could you tell us a bit about this group, who's in it, how it was formed, and the impact that we're seeing in the members' lives?
Oh, this group, actually its name is Haranira Kubaho, which means strive to survive. I had a blessing to visit them recently. It's a group of 30 members, deaf and mute. They come from 3 different communities, and they travel, they use around 2.5 hours, most of them, or 2 hours walking to meet at one local church far in a rural community. And their story is really amazing and incredible. The pastor from this church, his name is Jerome. He has 9 kids. And among the 9, one was born deaf and mute. He was the third child. He was his son. And when he was born, he already had 2 other kids. And the eldest was Jacqueline. Jacqueline, who is the church facilitator who formed this group. That's how she started connecting with that group, Jacqueline. And she was helping them slowly to teach them how to write their name, alphabets. And some people heard that she's doing that. And she said, if you know more people, please tell them they can come to our church. We meet every 2 weeks. Then when they became a bigger number, Jacqueline, by then she had become church facilitator, trained by Hope. And she said, oh, by the way, this group of people, I can teach them about savings. And that's how she started the saving group. And they said, no, we don't have money. She told them, just bring some, just small. So they saved 200 Rwandan francs per month. That is, I would say, 20 cents. It's very, very small. But the main goal for this group is not about saving. It's to break the isolation, because in their communities, they are really isolated. Some parents, they don't even want to share that they have such kids, or other people don't want to know that, so it's really a challenge for them. So that being in a small group, saving group, helped them to come from isolation. And the other impact it has there, Jacqueline has become their voice. She advocates for them.
Deanne, you mentioned that you recently visited this group. Could you just share with us a bit of what it was like to visit that group and be with its members?
Oh, yes. It's a 2 hours drive from our office, and we went very early in the morning. We got there around 11. It had been raining all the morning, but I was surprised to see them all there in their church, a small church. All of them were there. It was really cold, and I didn't know what to do or what to say because I don't know sign language. But Safi, the brother of Jacqueline, he was there to translate for me. He taught me a few signs like, hey, like this is clapping and the thank you. And I did that, and I told them I came to share with you that we love you so much, and I would like to hear if you have a dream. We talked about many things, but I asked them, do you have any dreams? They said, oh, if we could, we are saving here so that when we have enough amount, we can invest in small business. I said, really? You want to do business? How can you do business? Because it would be difficult for you. They said, no, we can. If we had a skill, let's say, if we knew to do something together, we can produce something, then we sell it. So they also have dreams. They have thoughts. They know they can get far. I was really, I was impressed that they can even articulate their dreams. And yeah, really, they did. I was so grateful that they don't find like money, give us money. They didn't say that. They said we can do small business, we can do something and earn money. And that was really encouraging.
Deanne, you've shared a lot about Jacqueline, who serves as a volunteer church facilitator through Hope Rwanda. Could you share with our audience a bit more of what it means to serve in this key role in the Savings Group ministry?
Yes, a church facilitator is a volunteer. That person is a church member, a local church member, who is elected by a church leader to form and mentor saving groups. So when we interact with the church, a local church, we ask them, we talk about the saving ministry, but we will need someone who can go back and mobilize community and church members to come and form small groups, saving groups. So that is the person the church sends to us for training. We train them for we provide 3-day training as initial training, where they learn the Restore curriculum, and they go back and form groups. And after 8 months, they come back for a refresher training. So that's the role of the church facilitator. It is a key role to the pillar of this ministry, because without those volunteers, this ministry wouldn't be possible.
Thank you so much for sharing about Jacqueline. As you see holistic impact from savings groups like the one you shared today, what makes you really excited about the future of this ministry in Rwanda?
What makes me excited is mostly the agriculture component of this ministry. On top of saving groups, members, we have asked them, what else can we do for you? now that you know about saving, you have invested in small businesses in your communities, what else? They told us, what if you taught us how we can do a better agriculture, because we have very small land, and if you could teach us. Beginning 2020, we started, and this ministry is growing big, and it has a very good impact in the community. And we have testimonies around, and we are excited to see what is ahead, to see how our families can feed themselves, can sell their products, and invest in more. But also, not only the agriculture, other opportunities around groups. We have groups of single mothers. We have also been supporting those. They are those young ladies, because of most of them, they got into this problem or challenge because of COVID. We had almost a year of staying home, and kids were not able to go to school. And some young ladies got pregnant and they couldn't go back to school. Now they're young, but also they have babies. We have been supporting them with tailoring training, and we want to see how they are able to help their families and care for their loved ones. There are much more to come. We want to see what the Lord is doing in the near future. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Dion, I heard that Hope's listening, monitoring, and evaluation team is actually in Rwanda right now. And one of the groups they're visiting are some of these women who participated in the tailoring program. And I love that Hope is intentional about listening really well as we try new initiatives to serve new frontiers, and that will just only help us in the future. So, Dion, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deanne. Thank you, Kelsey. And I don't know your response when you hear stories like that, but I can tell you what it does to me. When I hear stories like that, there is something deep inside of me that says, I want to see more of those types of impact around the world. I want to hear more of those stories of transformation. And even though we are still living with so much uncertainty in the world, I do not believe that this is a moment for safety. I do not believe this is a moment for us to sit back. I think this is a moment for us to continue leaning in and saying, God, what is it? What does it look like for us to continue to show up with everything that we have? What does it look like for us to show up? And I think back about that proverb that a society grows great when people plant trees whose fruit they will never eat. What does it look like for us to plant seeds that we're not going to see the fruit of, but in 25 years, we're going to be able to look back and see what has happened from those seeds? And I find this idea of planting interesting, and I've been reading the Bible a little bit differently when there are stories about trees. But a story about a tree stood out to me that I had never seen before, but it was a story about a tamarisk tree, and it was planted by Abraham. And the thing about a tamarisk tree is you did not plant it for yourself. You planted a tree for your future generations. This tree takes about 50 years to reach full maturity until someone can enjoy the shade of this tree. And that same posture is what we want to have right now with Hope International. We want to continue to say, let's plant seeds that we're not going to see the full fruit of for years to come. This is not about short term, this is about long term, and it's about faithfully showing up today, believing that God is going to do so much good in the years to come. And so again, with Hope International, we look back at 25 years. We can see the impact of 25 years. 25 years ago, it was the faithfulness to say, let's respond in one country. And now looking at, we are active in over 20 countries. It's also looking at a church partner. 25 years ago, it was one church that Hope International partnered with in Zaporozhye, Ukraine. And now it is almost 9,000 churches around the world that we've been able to partner with and equip to reach out and to love God and to love their neighbors. And it also is about the team that we have. It was about one individual that stepped out and said yes. And now we have over 6,400 individuals that every day are showing up are sharing the love of Christ, are reaching out to their community, and are planting seeds. So this is really what we're doing at Hope International at this particular time. We believe this is a moment where we want to be active. We want to be intentional about saying, what does it look like in this moment when there still are crises around the world, to say we want to show up and do everything we can to plant seeds in this moment, and we can't wait to see what happens. And the crazy thing about an event like tonight is we know that God is going to use what we are doing tonight, your faithfulness, your partnership, to plant some seeds. And we don't know the fruit that is going to come, but we have 25 years of history that says it is going to be good. And we are so grateful to be in this mission together with you. So tonight we had the opportunity to hear about Hope's response in Ukraine. We heard about Hope's work in Rwanda. We heard about Hope's global mission from Rico. And as we think about where are we going as an organization in the years to come, there is an element that I have in my heart of saying this is a moment not to sit back, not to play it safe, but there is a moment of urgency. We have the opportunity to do so much more. And we look back of 25 years and the seeds that were planted and the impact that we're having around the world. And I love the idea that tonight we're going to have the opportunity to plant more seeds. We're going to be able to see the impact not next week, not next month, but in the years to come as we continue to not just run towards need, but to do it in such a way that it is sharing and showing about the love of Jesus Christ. It is about jobs, it is about economic development, but it is also about the hope of the gospel and every single individual to know they are loved by the creator of the universe, every individual to know about the love of Jesus Christ. And we are so grateful that we are in this mission with all of you. So when we look back over the 25-year history, it took us approximately 25 years to serve just over 2 million families. And we believe, Lord willing, by the year 2025, we're going to be serving 3 million families. We're going to be able to invest more. And as these investments are repaid, it is this building of momentum that allows us to have more capital to invest in the dreams of more families as we proclaim and live the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it is about more church partnerships that we have as well. We believe this is a moment to continue to show up. And we know that we show up with all of you. We are so grateful for your friendship, for your support, for the fact that you have walked with us in these communities around the world. And we believe there is so much more to come. And Nicole Provo has been a friend who's been walking with Hope. She's been guiding one of our executive councils. She is going to share more about how you can partner with Hope. Matt and Nicole know about international development. They have lived and served internationally, and they understand what it looks like to show up in moments of need and invest in the dreams of families.
In 2020, some friends from church invited my husband Matt and I to Hope's first global virtual event. I'll never forget sitting down as a family in our home and hearing story after story of God's faithfulness to provide for his children in the midst of an otherwise heartbreaking year. Those stories were personally poignant for Matt and I because we had worked for many years in international nonprofits before coming back to the United States to pursue our careers, which included for Matt becoming an entrepreneur and fulfilling his dream to start a business. As we walked through that process as a family, we saw firsthand the power of job creation and financial flourishing, not just for our own lives, but for the lives of our employees and their families as well. And that started us on a process to find and support organizations that work to alleviate the many facets of poverty through entrepreneurship and by sharing the gospel. We found that Hope International not only does Christ-centered microenterprise with excellence, but they do so while maintaining operational integrity and robust financial stewardship. I am so grateful that friends shared with us about Hope a few years ago by inviting us to this very event. And I'm so grateful for the many opportunities that we've had since to volunteer with Hope through financial giving and advocacy. Tonight we've heard about families continuing to suffer through the crisis of war in Ukraine. And we've heard about the remarkable resilience of the Rwandan people, like Jacqueline, who are persevering through many trials. As we've seen, living in extreme poverty, everyone suffers, but kids suffer the most. They are the most vulnerable to trafficking, disease, malnourishment, and lack of education that confines them to a generational prison of poverty. Hope's model provides self-sustaining work in the context of life-giving community, and the result is that families and kids flourish. Matt and I have chosen to partner with Hope because we believe that the men and women Hope serves around the world should have the opportunity to work hard and support themselves and their families. We believe that a person living in poverty needs a hand up, not just a hand out. She needs a job so she can provide for her family, not just for today, but for tomorrow as well. As we look to provide more support for more families, as we look to dreaming beyond the first 25 years to the next 25, I invite you to take a next step with Hope. Please take the next few minutes to pray and consider how God might be asking you to invest what He's put in your hands to accelerate the work of Hope so that we can serve more families sooner and better. Today is the start of Match Week, which means your gifts and impact will be doubled. Other families and individuals just like yourselves have already generously contributed $750,000 to match whatever funds are received this week. Let's reach our goal of raising $1.5 million to accelerate the work of Hope. I firmly believe that Jesus calls us to give ourselves away for His sake, and in so doing, find lasting joy. Let's join hands together with our God and change the world one small loan, one safe place to save, and one life at a time. Thank you for joining in the mission of Hope International.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you to every single one of you for joining us for this global virtual event. We are honored, we are grateful to partner together in this mission. We look back at 25 years of impact, and I am so excited to see what happens in the next 25 years as we all plant seeds whose fruit we will never eat. Thank you for being a partner with Hope International, and may God continue to bless you and your families until we are together again.
He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, and trembles at his voice.